Okay. Wow, it's been a while since I filmed. I forgot how bright this lighting is. Okay. I can see some people are watching. Hey guys, if you can let me know whether the audio and the video quality is okay, that would be really helpful. New to the whole live streaming thing. And got my laptop to help me today, so just gonna pull a few things up. The Wi-Fi is terrible. Okay, people are coming. All good. I wonder if I can pull it up in here. Ah, live now. Fab. Okay. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is pretty... I'm not on the camera properly. This is fairly experimental. I had the idea to do this at the beginning of the fortnight, but I didn't know if I actually would because I'm doing updates at the end of each day on my website, the Tennis Journal, which you may have seen. And that's on those journals, I basically give my thoughts on the main things that have stood out to me during the day at the French Open and maybe look ahead a bit to what's upcoming. So that's going to be my main form of content for the first week of the French Open. And then in the second week, I'll probably start doing more preview and predictions videos on the channel. But I thought this would be a good way at the end of each round to kind of take a look back at the round as a whole and mainly answer your questions. So rather than me choose what to talk about, you give me your questions and let me know what you want me to talk about, basically. So I'm just going to go on here and see if I can see. It's quite weird. I'm kind of... Audio is fine, camera a bit blurry. Thank you. Might be to do with the Wi-Fi. It's not brilliant strength, to be honest. But I mean, as long as you can hear me, that's the most important thing. So this is a round one roundup of the French Open. Not that the first round has finished, because in true Paris fashion, rain has struck already, meaning that players such as Simona Halep, the top seed, are yet to play even their first round match. Other players, Thomas Berdych still hasn't finished. He's down 2-0 against Jeremy Chardy. Berdych is a player who's very out of form at the moment, and it's not going to be great for him if he crashes out in round one. He's really falling down the rankings a bit at the moment and needs a confidence boost. So will be interesting to see if he can turn this one round from 2-0 down, because I mean, you can't get much of a better confidence boost than that. So I'm just going to pull up the draws so far. Thank you to the person who said they love my channel. Very kind of you. I love that people watch the channel, because it wouldn't be a channel without the people watching, would it? Where are we? Right, so very shortly I will get started on the questions that people have already sent me to answer. If you have a question you want me to answer based on things that have happened so far, maybe a certain match you want my opinion on, maybe who you think, who you want, that makes no sense, who I think might go deep in the tournament, any of those kind of opinions, just send me a question and I will answer as best I can. As you can already tell, I'm sure there has been no prep for this video, so apologies, but I've kind of been picking things up as I went along. I meant to have my notebook here that I wrote. Never mind, doesn't matter. I go off on a tangent anyway, so... right. Fab. Okay, so I'm going to start by answering... Oh, just a brief overview, sorry, for people who haven't been on top of what's been going on. Main bits of information: Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal, Alexander Zverev, Dominic Thiem, main contenders, I'd say, from the men's side, all of them through to the second round. On the women's side, Serena Williams is through, Maria Sharapova is through, but Yelena Ostapenko, defending champion, out in round 1. So it's been a very busy first couple of days. The French Open spreads out the first round over 3 days. It's the only Grand Slam to do that. So even though we're at the end of the third day, the rain means that some people still haven't finished their first round match, so we'll just kind of go with what we've got. And I will start answering the questions you so kindly sent to me. If my computer always makes me log into Twitter again, like what the heck? Okay, so starting with our first question. After 3 days, what match or matches have surprised you the most? I would say probably Yelena Ostapenko's loss, to be honest. I did a preview, like, predictions challenge thing for one of my friends' websites, which is Britwatch Sports, so check them out. And I actually predicted Ostapenko to make an early exit, but I didn't see her crashing out in round 1 because Ostapenko, from my point of view, has so much self-confidence and an aggressive game that when it's hitting its marks, it's very difficult for her to be beaten even. So to see Ostapenko go out straight away when she was on centre stage and had really backed up her maiden Grand Slam win pretty well in the immediate aftermath of it last year, it was very surprising to me to see that she went down in straight sets to Katerina Kozlova, even, she's a good player, but she very rarely beats the top players and is not a big stage player. She's still fairly young, so time for her to develop. She's got a big serve, a big ground stroke game, but definitely this is a match that Ostapenko should at least have made more competitive. I can understand that she was feeling the nerves and feeling the pressure, and given her young age and the way she so suddenly came into the spotlight, maybe we should have given her a bit more leeway in that regard. Like, I don't think anyone really expected her to struggle so much with the external pressure side of things, especially given that she wasn't in good form coming into the event. So in that sense, maybe there wasn't as much pressure on her as they would have been if she was winning Rome, for example. So Ostapenko's form indicated that she was in for an early loss, but to see her crash out straight away with a bag full of unforced errors was not expected on my part, even though I did think that second round, third round, she could be waving goodbye. So in the long term for Ostapenko, I think this win will actually do her good. It will toughen her up. It will make her more determined to show up on these big stages, I guess, but wasn't really expecting her to bow out in round 1. Taking a drink. It's been really hot in the UK. Like, it doesn't happen usually. Trust it to happen during the French Open when I have to be inside watching tennis. So there you go. That's that question then. We also have, do you think Rafael Nadal can be beaten this fortnight? Interesting and very relevant question, because Nadal actually, sorry, this keeps falling to the side, only just came through his first round match against experienced Italian Simone Bolelli. Right, this is on an angle. I'm very sorry. It's gonna have to stay like that because I can't deal with it. Yeah, so Nadal was pushed a lot more than most people expected in the first round. Honestly, I was a bit apprehensive to say I thought Nadal might be pushed, because so many people have it set in their heads that Nadal is totally going to win this event and no one is going to challenge him, especially when the draw came out. And honestly, Nadal's half is a lot less heavy than the opposing half. There aren't very clear challenges to stand up and take him on. The key contenders, such as Djokovic, such as Zverev, Thiem, are on the other side of the draw. But Bolelli was a last-minute first-round opponent for Nadal after Alexander Dolgopolov pulled out. Dolgopolov, I don't think, would have challenged Nadal much at all. He's very hot and cold, mainly cold at the moment, and Nadal has handled him well enough before, so didn't see Dolgopolov being a threat, but Bileli is experienced on clay, has had big wins before, has played Nadal before, and knows what to expect. And if he approached it with the right mindset, he could come out really swinging freely, knowing what he wanted to do in the match, and giving himself the opportunity to execute that game plan all the way through, which is exactly what he did. I was very impressed with Bileli. He came out with this very clear plan right from the beginning. He went for the angles, cracked down on top of Nadal's topspin, made those angles, and when he had Nadal on the stretch, he followed them up to the net and was really playing very well at the net, very solid, making the angles on the volleys as well, so that Nadal just wasn't fast enough to get past him. And he didn't sustain it throughout the whole match, which is understandable. It's very difficult to do that against Nadal of all people. And he probably did miss a few chances. I think that, well, first of all, the final scoreline was, doing this off the top of my head, 6-4, 6-3, 7-6, and I think it was 11-9 in the final set tiebreak. And sorry, I've missed a lot on the chat now, but I'll come back to it in a minute. You can see I'm easily sidetracked. What was I saying? Yeah, the match, Nadal's match. Right at the end, Bileli was 6-3 up in the tiebreak, and it was, in a way, it was on his racket. He was being very aggressive. But then when he had set point on serve at 6-5, he reined it in a bit just for a moment, but that one moment was enough for Nadal to place his ball where he wanted it, to come up to the net, to attack, and to finish the point. And from 6-all in that tiebreak, it just looked like Nadal would have this finish in straight sets. Nadal was great at I can't speak today. Nadal was great at problem solving during that match. He just turns defense to attack so well. He waits for his moments because he knows they will come, and when they do come, he pounces on them. So all in all, it was a very close match, but in those key moments, Nadal was there and he got through. The reason I've just given a brief commentary on that match is because I think it shows that Nadal can be pushed and that Nadal can be beaten if the right player comes along with the right game plan and executes it consistently throughout the match. I mean, there was very little in this one. There was just a few points here and there that decided the outcome, and Nadal still won in straight sets, which shows exactly how clutch he is in the key moments. So, yes, I think Nadal can be beaten. Is it likely that he will be beaten? No. I think after having a test in round one, a stiff test like this, he's actually probably going to be more imperious going forward and probably more confident in his own ability. He's also had the chance to see what he needs to work on. His first serve went on a wander at the worst of times during that match, and that's something that he's going to be looking at with Carlos Moya and the rest of his team. So I feel sorry for those players who will have to come up against Nadal later in the tournament, and maybe it's more likely that a more unknown or unexpected player will push him in the beginning, like Bileli, as opposed to one of the top players from the other half of the draw causing him trouble in the final or something. So I'm not sure how off track I went there, but that's my answer to that question. Moving on. What did you think about Serena Williams' superhero outfit she wore today against Kristina Pliskova? I was about to say that I care a lot more about Serena's tennis than what she's wearing, and anyone's tennis, in fact, but that's a bit hypocritical because I'm pretty sure I put on my Insta story yesterday about Nadal's outfit and what a great shade of blue it was, so that's a little bit hypocritical, but it's a great shade of blue. No, at the end of the day, a lot of people have had a lot to say about Serena's outfit, and everyone has their opinion, and if she's happy with it, then as long as she's playing good tennis, it's all good. I myself am more interested in how she's executing her game. She hasn't been long back since pregnancy leave, if that's what you want to call it, maternity leave, I guess. And since she's come back, she's looked very rusty and hasn't. It's difficult to say this because Serena is so accomplished, and on her day she is the greatest female tennis player that's ever lived, and her aggression and her killer instinct and desire to win is second to none. but with the changes that she's going through at the moment, even that hasn't been enough to get her wins so far. The rest of the tour has stepped up, and maybe at the moment, given that Serena's just coming back, she's lost my train of thought. Yeah, given that Serena's just coming back, obviously she's not in her best form, and I think a lot of players are sensing that and not feeling so much intimidation when they come to face her, as I think I've already said about someone else today. Not that I can remember who. So Serena's match today, because I'm going off topic already, against Kristina Pliskova, she did not play her best tennis at all. She was still struggling in a number of aspects, making a lot of unforced errors. But the positives for Serena is that she was the player going for the win. Her opponent seemed a bit lethargic, I guess. She was a bit slow. I mean, Pliskova has a big serve, but apart from that, I didn't see much impressive from her today. Serena just seemed to want the win more, and she was going after it, and she was the one making the hits and making the misses. And for her, it paid off today because she did get that win in straight sets. There were a few breaks of serve in the second set, and as a like to Nadal in his third set, it shows that however wobbly her game was and however far from her top standard that it was for Serena, she was still there in the big moments. And I think a serve got her out of trouble a few times. In that first set tiebreak, she pulled it out of the bag when she needed to. So it's a good start for Serena. I think she needs a few matches to truly get going. If she does get going, I'm not ruling her out of winning the tournament. I think I made a prediction well, a very iffy prediction, that Petra Kvitova could well win. She's not in the limelight like Halep and Svitolina, who are still struggling for their maiden Grand Slam wins. She's experienced winning a major before, and she has the game to get it done. But if Serena can warm up, we saw what she did at the Australian Open nearly a decade ago now, or over a decade, I lose track, but everybody wrote her off. She was unseeded, came into the tournament and was very motivated by the fact that people were writing her off, and stormed to the title. So not ruling out that Serena could do that here, but her tennis is going to need to improve very much if that's to happen, from her movement to her consistency. And she has a good team around her and the ability to get that done. So very interesting to follow Serena over the next week. So yeah, very long answers to these questions. How long have we gone for? Nearly 18 minutes, I think. If we go for about half an hour, unless people have more questions. I'm just going through your comments now. Yeah. What was the best match so far? I feel like I've done nothing much but watch tennis over the past couple of days, but it's impossible to keep track of every Grand Slam match in the opening stages of a tournament. So many courts with so many matches going on. The best match that I've seen, I'm already forgetting which ones I've seen. I don't know. It depends, really, if you're talking in terms of quality or in terms of a battle, because some matches can be really close but have so many unforced errors and breaks of serve and that kind of thing that really, in terms of quality, they're not fantastic. I mean, there's been some good score lines. Two players yesterday came back from 2-0 down. Young player, is it Jaume Munar? A player from the Rafael Nadal Academy who's 21 came back from 2-0 down to beat David Ferrer, and I believe the score lines in the last three sets were 7-6, 7-6, 7-5. I'm just going to check that to make sure. But I think he won 2 tiebreaks. Let's have a look. Yeah, 7-6, 7-6, 7-5. And then Marco Cecchinato, who won Budapest, maybe, something similar. A clay court ATP event, let's go with that. He won that a few weeks ago, and he also came back from 2-0 down. So there are these marathon matches going on. Garcia Lopez beat Stan Wawrinka in 5 sets, and I know someone asked a question about that, so I'll come to that soon. But yeah, these 5-set battles are always worth watching, whatever the quality, however many breaks of serve, you know, because they're so intriguing, especially when a player has been 2 sets to love up or 2 sets to 1. I truly believe that if Bolelli had got that 3rd set tiebreak and taken it into a 4th set, the match was so close that anything could have happened there, because Bolelli really kind of would have broken the rules by winning that tiebreak, because Nadal just kept pegging him back and keeping up with him during that 3rd set. And usually when Nadal does that, as we saw, he wins the tiebreak and shuts the match down. But if Bolelli had sneaked out that set point and taken the match into a 4th set, then who's to say it wouldn't have gone to 5 sets? So I'm a very, very firm believer in best of 5-set matches. They bring the most drama and the most passion to Grand Slam tournaments, and whoever's playing in one of them, they're always worth watching. And whether a player is ranked world number 1 or world number 120, they are capable of top level tennis. And you could see a player who you know hardly anything about, like Munar, who beat Ferrer, pull out some brilliant tennis. So always worth watching. Let's see where we're up to. I'll go back onto the questions you left me on Twitter. Okay, we'll go to the Wawrinka one. So question is, do you think Stan Wawrinka can make a comeback on a world-class level? And I'm sorry because this camera is cutting off the top of my head, but there's not much I can do about it. All technical issues will be sorted for the next live stream. Gonna have to do, I don't know. I'm leaning forward as it is. I'm not sure if you can tell, but I'm right forward to actually get in the screen. Yeah. Do you think Wawrinka can make a comeback in world-class tennis? Yes, definitely. The biggest problems for Wawrinka at the moment are clearly physical. That's the reason he's going to drop outside of the top 250 at the end of this tournament, and it also played a part during his loss to Garcia Lopez, because he did have to call a medical timeout. I think it was fairly early in the match, his knee giving him trouble again. I do wonder if Wawrinka is still trying to rush his comeback a bit, so desperate to get back on tour playing and maybe protect his ranking a bit now as well. That pressure is now off, given that he is confirmed to drop down the rankings. Wawrinka as well has never been the most consistent player. He has been a consistent challenger to the big four. He generally brings great tennis against those players, and at one stage, obviously, he was getting deep into big events quite regularly, but his Grand Slam victories, all 3 of them, have generally come out of the blue. Like, he hasn't been playing incredible tennis beforehand. So given that Wawrinka is a streaky player, it depends what you're talking about in terms of maybe just the level of his game, but also in terms of consistency and being a consistent top 10 player. He may never be a top 10 player like for a long amount of time again, but he could still win Grand Slams. Once a player has talent and ability, only old age and injury can take that away from them. So definitely if Stan is fit, then I see him challenging for major titles again, especially in the current situation on the ATP with so many players, like top players, suffering with injury. There is always that opening for him to do well. So I would not be at all surprised to see Wawrinka shooting up the rankings once again once he is fully fit. Yeah, I'm gonna have to stop fiddling with that. Interesting. Do you think Novak Djokovic will make the second week? Well, let's have a look at his draw, shall we? I did check the draws because I was originally doing draw analysis, but by the time I got halfway through, I was working at a tennis tournament last week, and I was doing different work unrelated to the French Open, and by the time I got partway through my draw previews, they were no longer previews because we got started, so I kind of left them. There are other opportunities to do draw previews. I made my my core predictions, including Rafael Nadal to win, Petra Kvitova to win, Yelena Ostapenko to lose early, as I mentioned. So I will retweet the link to that if you haven't already seen it. But let's have a look at this draw then, because Djokovic is up. I know for a fact that he is up against Munar next. Am I pronouncing that right? If I'm not pronouncing that right and someone knows the correct pronunciation, do tell me, because I'd be very interested to hear it. Just sound it out. Done it again, I've lost my train of thought. Yeah, we're looking at Djokovic's draw, aren't we? Yeah, so I think Djokovic needs to get through his first couple of rounds. This is where he's very vulnerable. Even though he played really well in Rome, and he did play exceptionally well compared to his recent performances against Nadal in Rome, he really challenged him, and it just came down to the biggest moments where Nadal was more clinical in that first set and then rolled away with it a bit more in the seconds. Djokovic is still up and down. He has, over the past few tournaments, we've seen him have promising showings and then crash out in his next event. So it all depends on how he's feeling mentally. I know he wasn't thrilled with his performance in the first round, and he said it was kind of about making the best of the situation and how he felt. So that's good mentally from him, and the mentality is a big aspect for Djokovic. His mentality was part of what made him so invincible, really, over the 2015, 2014, 2016 seasons. The years blur into one now. So it's all about his mental state, but it's about the mental state of the players that face him as well, because we've all seen that Djokovic is more vulnerable now than he used to be. And if players come out with more belief in themselves against him and a clear game plan, then I can see Djokovic crashing out early. I know I'm not giving a very solid answer here, but it's very difficult, especially seeing as I didn't really watch any of Djokovic's opening match. So he has a fairly, well, I was going to say he has a fairly decent draw. I think it's okay compared to some of the others. He could be up against it a bit in, let me zoom out. Right out so I can't actually see. Fab. The French Open website is not great, let's put it that way. You can't section up the draw properly. I know. No, I don't. Well, I will answer all of your questions. Don't worry, I'll get through it. I know I keep sidetracking. Well, French Open draw. I don't know, what do you guys think? Do you think Djokovic will make the second week of the French Open? And did anyone watch his first match to completion? Because I'd be interested to hear what you thought of it. If you did, comments, and I will read out your comments for the benefit of everybody watching. It's really hurting my back now, bending down to actually get in the screen. So yeah, it just really comes down to the mental state of Djokovic and the mental state of his opponents. I go on about this a lot, but I truly believe that the mentality is 50% of the game in tennis. Everything is based upon that. If you're not confident, you can't strike your forehand the way you want, you can't land it the way you want to, and you can't base your game around that. It's very important whether you're playing aggressively or defensively. That sheer belief in yourself and the confidence to execute your game the way you want to is just absolutely key and crucial. So I've liked way too many tweets. Ah, fabulous. Here we are. Sectioned up into quarters, the draw, Djokovic. Yeah, okay, so this is what I thought. Djokovic is on track to play Dimitrov in round 4. So that could be interesting. I mean, Dimitrov's best surface isn't clay, but Dimitrov is streaky everywhere at the moment, and he has a game that does translate decently across all surfaces. I think he's given Nadal a bit of a match on clay before, although I may be mistaken. So he's just one of those players that can be trouble for anybody on his day. And I mean, he's ranked up at well, seeded at number 4 for a reason. Clearly he's ranked world number 5. But yeah, basically, after all that rambling, I cannot be sure whether I think Djokovic will make the second week or not. I need to watch him a bit more, see how he problem solves, deals with situations. So yeah, that will be very interesting to watch. It's interesting that he did survive his first round match in straight sets, even though he wasn't entirely pleased with the way he was playing. That's important for him. So let's have a look at the questions you've asked on here. I know that I put on my Insta story to reply if you had any questions, but I'm filming on my phone and I don't think I can access like replies on Instagram on the computer. So may have to leave those ones. As I say, all technical issues will be sorted out if you want another live stream after the end of round 2. So do comment on this video now and let me know if you'd like me to do another one of these after round 2. No point in me doing it if you don't want to watch it. I see we've been going on for half an hour, but I've rambled, so I will go on longer because I've seen that you've asked me some questions. What was the best match we've had? What do you think of Kyle Edmund's chances for this tournament? Now, this is very interesting. Those of you who followed my work for a while will know that I'm not one to be all, woo, go Great Britain, la-di-da, you know, and generally hype them up. But Edmund has been playing very, very well on clay this season, and I've been very impressed by his general maturity and the way he approaches each match. He's started getting big name wins. Novak Djokovic, for example. Yes, Djokovic wasn't playing his best tennis, but he'd just come off a win over Kei Nishikori, and Edmund just approached that match with the best mentality, with knowing exactly what he wanted to do and going out to win, not going out to avoid losing, and really executing his game well. His results have been very consistent since the Australian Open. He did have a bit of a break due to injury / illness. I think it was mainly injury. But I think that Edmund's chances are actually really, really good, and he has a decent draw. The biggest challenge for Edmund next would probably be Fabio Fognini, potentially in the third round, and we all know, after his recent showing against Nadal, that Fognini doesn't have the greatest stamina on tour, which isn't fantastic over best of 5 sets. So really, if Kyle Edmund is zoned in and dialed in for that, his biggest challenge should potentially come in the quarterfinals, where he may be taking on Marin Cilic, and Cilic not as big a threat on clay as he was on hard courts, where he beat Edmund at the Australian Open. So it's interesting because I wouldn't from the outset have looked at Kyle Edmund's name and thought, yeah, Kyle Edmund go to the quarterfinals, semi-finals, but actually looking at his draw, there is very much the opportunity for Edmund to at least make the quarterfinals, if not go to the semi-finals, and depending upon what happens in other quarters, potentially go to the final. But I don't want to sound like an overhyping Brit, so I'll halt there. So that was Kyle Edmund. Okay, someone asked how well will Serena do judging by her first round match. I think we've kind of covered that. For Serena, she just needs to progress with each match. Going on her first round match alone, if she were to stay at that level, she probably wouldn't last very long when she came up against the players who were... I mean, at Grand Slams, players tend to play their best tennis more often. The WTA as a whole, not as inconsistent as it was, but it is generally fairly unpredictable. The top players can't be relied upon to bring about their best tennis all the time. But at a Grand Slam, it tends to be a bit different because players are so determined to get that upset. So I think that while they might not, for example, bring their best tennis against Serena at a Premier event, a Premier 5 event, at a Grand Slam, get a player like Garbiñe Muguruza, for example, who's beaten Serena twice at the French Open, she would likely come out and play lights out tennis and not really let Serena get into it in a way that she would want to. So yeah, it's hard to judge based on her first round match because I do think that Serena will be looking to improve on specific things throughout her competition. But yeah, it's just hard to judge on the first round alone, really. Greetings from Germany, greetings from the UK, where it's unnaturally warm. What do you think about Venus Williams losing in the first round? Sadly, because I have admired and respected Venus for many years and I truly believe in her talent and ability, I wasn't surprised at all. The French Open has never been the most successful slam for Venus. To put it bluntly, it's been her least successful slam. She has made a final, and it shows how accomplished Venus has been for a slam tournament where she has made a final to be her least accomplished slam. But she's gone out on the opening Sunday of the French Open before, not too long ago, and this year she has been struggling a bit, maybe feeling the after effects of last season, where she was on the year as a whole, she was probably the most consistent player. She made 2 Grand Slam finals. She reached the WTA finals final. She was consistently going deep at the big events and peaking at those events, and that takes a lot out of you mentally as well as physically. So I just thought my phone was on low charge. I hope it doesn't die. If it suddenly goes black, I've either lost Wi-Fi or my phone has died. So apologies. Train of thought. Venus. Yes. Venus Williams losing round 1. Yeah, she was... Qiang Wang is an underrated player. Yeah, she's got nice flat ground strokes. It's quite fluid, and I've seen her play live before, and she can play good tennis, and she's the sort of player that Venus maybe doesn't know so well and could take her by surprise, as she did. And Venus hasn't been in great form this year. She didn't have a clay court win to her name coming into the French Open, so I wasn't personally surprised to see Venus going out in that early stage. For Venus, the biggest thing now is the grass court season. Obviously, Wimbledon, her most successful Grand Slam. So if she goes out early there, then she really needs to reassess what's going on in her mindset and her game plan. But for now, it's clay, and she's not had a good clay court season, and yes, I did expect Venus to go out pretty early. Casablanca, Morocco. Hello. How deep do you think Muguruza will go? Well, Garbine Muguruza had a good first-round win over Svetlana Kuznetsova, a former champion. Kuznetsova not in great form right now, but as I say, these players can bring their best tennis to the occasion. I think, I'm just going to double-check, but I'm pretty sure that Muguruza won that one in straight sets and handled rain delays during that as well, which is good for showing where the mentality and the focus is at. Yeah, won the tiebreak to love in the first set. She won that one 7-6, 6-2. Muguruza's the 3rd seed, but for a Grand Slam event and one that she has won before, I feel like she's a bit under the radar given that Simona Halep, Petra Kvitova, Elina Svitolina were the players shining ahead of the tournament. So Muguruza does her best when she's not in the spotlight, when she's not under pressure. When she won the French Open for the first time, she nearly went out to Anna Karolina Schmiedlova in round 1. When she reached the Wimbledon final for the first time, she wasn't considered for major glory at the beginning of the event. And then when she won Wimbledon last year, she'd done decently on grass courts ahead of that tournament, but she wasn't exactly your first pick for glory. So this is the situation in which Muguruza kind of thrives, and if she's feeling her game, we've seen the damage she can do on clay courts. She can approach each match with that Serena-like intensity, with that aggression, and if she's feeling it, there's no saying how far Muguruza could go, really. Where are we at? Bilelli did hit some very good angles and drop shots, I agree. The drop shots especially. People need to do that. They need to change it up against Nadal. They can't beat him rallying from the baseline. They do need to change it up, and it's something that Bilelli did a lot, so credit to him. Yeah, here we go. Very interesting comment from someone. I think the weather has a lot of influence on sorry, let's start that again. I think the weather has a lot of influence on Parisian clay. Nadal likes it when it's hot and dry because the topspin is more efficient, unlike the current weather conditions in Paris. I was thinking along these lines myself. A few other players are like this. It's been very wet and heavy kind of in Paris, and that was more favourable to Bilelli's game than Nadal's. So even if players do come out with a different game plan against Nadal, if the weather's better, then maybe they're not going to have so much of a chance against him. So these conditions, there are so many small things that can factor and actually make a difference in the results. And I think that's a very good point. Weather can have a big impact. And I think I can think of occasions where it has done. The year Muguruza beat Serena to win the French Open final, Serena clearly wasn't liking those heavier conditions, was feeling rather frustrated, and Muguruza just took it all in her stride. So, someone agreed as well. Best of 5 is love, best of 5 is life. I agree. Best of 5 for the win. Best of 5 for women. Oh dear, don't get me into this. I would honestly say no, just because I think for the women it's better to have shorter matches where you can guarantee better quality. I think the women could play best of 5 sets, but I think that the quality of tennis would be lost as a result of that because they would get so fatigued. Like the lung capacity of between men and different so the lung capacity between men and women is different. There are so many differences in like the physical build and the physical body, and I don't think that best of 5 would work for the quality of tennis if it was brought into the women's game. I know that many of them are up for doing it and feel they would be able to do it, and yeah, I think they would, but I think that quality would be lost as a result, and that's all I'm saying on that one because sensitive subjects and whatever. Someone says Djokovic will make it to the second week, however, he may struggle against the big guns. It's interesting because last year Djokovic wasn't in great form, but he made it to the quarterfinals where he got absolutely pummeled by Dominic Thiem, who he had given a pretty big lesson at the French Open in, I think, a couple of years before, or maybe even the year before. So Djokovic can kind of look deceptively good sometimes against the lower ranked players and then come up against a top player and he's gone. So it's strange to be saying this about Djokovic because it really wasn't the case the other year, well, a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. But he's still got the ability, you know, he just needs to find the right headspace and believe in his game again. Who do you think will win, men and women? I mean, I just hate predictions, but the predictions I made were Rafael Nadal for the men, which was a fairly straightforward one, and Petra Kvitova for the women, which I thought a bit more about. It's just very hard to predict the women's champion. We had world number 43, Ostapenko, winning last year, so it can kind of go any way, really. Who do you think will be number 1 after the French Open in the women? I haven't even thought about that at the present moment. I'll give that one a think and maybe let you know in the next episode of this. It's incredible how you can talk in this flow without a script. Thank you. I feel like I'm not flowing particularly well, to be honest. It's easier when I don't have to look at the camera the whole time, because obviously, even though I'm talking to you guys, I'm essentially just sat in my room talking at my phone. So, yeah. Interesting. I think Halep or Muguruza will win the French, but I don't actually think Nadal is going to win the French. But it is Nadal. Interesting comments. Yeah, I just hate how people just presume that someone's going to win something because they've been so great in times past. I honestly thought at one point, and even during the Bolelli match, the more people presume and write down as absolute certain that Nadal is going to win the French Open, the more likely I think it is that someone will probably beat him, because then there is less pressure on his opponents and more pressure on him. And while I think Nadal does a good job at shutting out the external pressure, at some point he's human like everybody else, and that could actually have an impact, if not on him, then definitely on the opponents facing him, because they may actually have this mentality that they have nothing to lose. I can kind of see the live stream here, and just the whole framing of it is terrible, so I apologize for that, but I will get that sorted for next time. I've like cut off my forehead. I think Serena will win. I'm not writing Serena Williams off. I think she could win. So that will be interesting to see. Biggest threat for Nadal? We'll make this the last question for now. Hard to say. I did say earlier I think it's more likely that someone less expected will challenge him as opposed to someone on the other side of the draw. I think it's very interesting because no one's asked a question about this. that Zverev won his first match so easily, because he was playing Ricardas Berankis, who is ranked outside the top 100. But at the same time, it's a Grand Slam match. He hasn't been the best Grand Slam player, far from it, for the past few majors that he's entered. And he really came out firing, only dropped 4 games, which is a Nadal-like score, a Djokovic-like score, but neither of them dropped so few games, and even Dominic Thiem didn't drop so few games. So if Zverev can keep up that intensity and combine it with consistency and mental strength, then we saw how he pushed Nadal and had him on the ropes in Rome, so who knows what he could do at the French Open. It's just very much the best of 5-set format, I think, that will set Nadal apart from everybody else, because he has that endurance, he has the experience of coming through monumental battles at this tournament, and if a player were to really be challenging him and take him into a 5th set, I think Nadal would definitely be favourite to come out on top. No, thank you for watching, everybody. It's been interesting. A good, yeah, if you want more of these, I was planning to do one at the end of each round, so leave a comment down below and let me know if you want me to do a further one for the second round. Yeah, what else have I been doing? Yes, I've been writing on my website, so I do roundups at the end of each day, and that will probably be for the first week, and as I say, we'll probably do some preview and predictions videos next week. I've also been on Love Sport Radio talking tennis a fair bit. In fact, I think I've made 3 appearances within 24 hours over the past 24 hours, so that's been fun. So Love Sport Radio is a radio station in London. You can listen to it anywhere in the world, because you can listen to it online at lovesportradio.com. And I'm their tennis correspondent, so every now and again, be it early morning or late evening, I will be on talking about the latest occurrences in tennis, giving my opinions, giving insights. It's usually for 5 or 10 minutes, so not very long. So I post on my Twitter and Instagram to let people know when I'm going to be making an appearance. So you can check them out, and also at the moment I'm recording my appearances and putting them onto my SoundCloud, which I will link to in the description of this video, for which I remembered I just forgot something, but never mind. Sorry, sidetrack. I'm just gonna lift this off here for the last bit. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. I'm sorry it's been a while since I last uploaded. I have been busy working in tennis, doing other things. I realised that I never did a roundup video for the clay court season. So maybe after the French Open I'll do a roundup, but we head into the grass court season and I have some exciting content planned for during the grass court season, which involves tournaments and all that kind of thing. So yeah, stay tuned, follow me on Twitter at Abigail Tennis. I'm doing live tweets of matches, giving my opinions on what's going on. Check out thetennisjournal.org, listen out for me on Love Sport Radio, and yeah, thank you for joining the live stream, and hopefully I'll see you again at the end of round 2. So thank you, and I'm gonna have to work out how to end this video now. So I think I just cross it. Yeah, that's all. See you next time. Bye.